Hello, anybody who's watching this. Welcome to my reaction to Losing Power on the Seabed Last Moments by Kursk. In case you couldn't tell, it's on the title of my video and it's on the fucking screen. I'm not excited for this, that's why I'm a bit angry, because it's Last Moments again, and it's depressing. Not as depressing as the bottom of the sea, that we'll find out in a second. But this video was recommended through my donation link by Tom Vinton. And if you want to be a great person like Tom, you can use my donation link in the description below to recommend me a video or two, or four, like Tom did. Anyway, let's begin. Again, let's get this over with as fast as we can.
On the first episode of this series, we looked at the USS Thresher, a submarine that sank past its crush depth and killed everyone on board. The question I posed was, how do you die on a sinking submarine? In the case of the USS Thresher, the end came quickly. But what happens if your submarine sinks without exceeding the crush depth? What happens if you end up stuck at the bottom of the sea? That's exactly what happened to the Kursk submarine. On the morning of the 12th of August 2000, the Russian Navy...
I'm sorry, but his hair is annoying me. Just get it away from, like, eyes, at least. I don't know.
Navy is conducting a large-scale exercise in the Barents Sea, the first such exercise in over a decade since before the fall of the Soviet Union. Participating are 30 ships and 3 submarines, the Kursk being one of them. The Kursk was an Oscar II class submarine, regarded as the pride of the Russian submarine fleet. At 508 feet long, the Oscar IIs were designed to hunt and destroy.
Why is it Russian again? The only people who died in space were Russian, and now this. People who are gonna die in the bottom of the sea, also Russian.
Aircraft carriers, being powered by 2 nuclear reactors and carrying 24 P-700 Granite missiles, themselves each being 33 feet long. The Kursk was one of the few submarines of the Navy that was authorized to carry a combat load at all times. At 8:51, the Kursk, carrying 118 crew members, receives permission to conduct torpedo.
How many?
Carrying 118 crew members receives permission to conduct torpedo training and launch 2 dummy torpedoes at the lead ship Pyotr Veliki. After much delay, at 11:29, the Kursk...
He said Pyotr Veliki, which means Pyotr the Great. I guess could be Peter, if you kind of translate the name in Russian, but
it's finally ready to fire the dummy torpedoes, which are Type 65 torpedoes with the warhead removed. Suddenly, there is a seismic event registering at 1.5 on the Richter scale. A couple of minutes later, it is followed by a second greater force registering a 4.2 on the Richter scale, 250 times larger than the first. This is detected as far away as Alaska, roughly 2,800 miles away.
I see.
The Russian naval vessels shudder from the force. Some ships discount this as part of the exercise, but the Pyotr Veliki reports the event to fleet headquarters. The report is ignored. When the scheduled time for completion of the tests, 13:30, passes with no contact from the Kursk, it wasn't immediately alarming, as communications failures were not uncommon. Some aircraft are dispatched to look for the Kursk. After hours of unsuccessful searching, the Kursk fails to complete a scheduled communications check at 1800 hours. After multiple attempts to contact her, some more aircraft are dispatched to look for the sub. At 22:30, with no sign of the Kursk, the fleet declares the situation is an emergency, and all exercises are halted. A ship carrying the AS-32 and AS-34 deep submergence rescue vehicles and various other rescue diving equipment is dispatched from port in Severomorsk. At 9 a.m. the following morning, the ship arrives on location. Moving to coordinates where sonic anomalies had been detected, the AS-34 is lowered into the water. About an hour later, at a depth of 100 meters, the vessel collides with an object. The crew peer through a porthole. They see the Kursk lying in the clay seabed. Damaged by the collision, the AS-34 must resurface, and the AS-32 takes its place, although it is unable to locate the Kursk, having been given the incorrect information. The rescue effort spans several days, with repeated failed attempts to attach to the Kursk and damage to the rescue vehicles. Upon learning of the sunken submarine, the US, British, French, German, Israeli, Italian, and Norwegian governments all offered to aid in the recovery efforts. Okay. The Russian government refused all foreign assistance.
Of course they did.
First stated that the
look at him, look at young Putin. Fuck's sake, he's already here. And he's still here to this day.
Exercises had been completed successfully. The Russian officials now claimed that the Kursk had encountered a minor fault, but that the ship and her crew were intact and a rescue was imminent. In reality, worsening weather conditions were only further delaying Russian rescue efforts. The divings that do make it down to the submarine notice that parts of the hull are torn and twisted wreckage. 5 days after the initial accident, with no success from the rescue efforts, Russian President Vladimir Putin finally accepts British and Norwegian help. Okay. The 21st of August, Norwegian divers gain access to the inside of the submarine,
they are the enemy,
although only Russian divers are permitted to enter. Of the 118 aboard the Kursk, there are no survivors. Okay. Russian officials first claim that all crew had died instantly and suggest that the incident may have been caused by collision with a NATO submarine that had been monitoring the naval exercises. Neither of these claims is true, and 2 years later, a Russian investigation reveals the official series of events. It's supposed that the dummy...
Would that be even a thing to think of? That two submarines collided? Wouldn't be the second one there also? Wouldn't there be... Like, wouldn't they notice each other on the radar? To not fucking collide? It's not ground where two cars are going. It's sea. There's different levels in it. Never mind sideage. You can go from side to side. Anyway.
Torpedo being loaded in for training fire had a leak in its casing due to faulty welding. Leaking high test peroxide reacted with the copper in the Kursk's torpedo tubes, causing an ignition of the torpedo's kerosene fuel and resulting in an explosion. The explosion killed all 7 members of the torpedo room compartment immediately, and a fire broke out. The explosion also likely killed or incapacitated members in the surrounding compartments, including the command post, as no emergency action was taken after the submarine was rocked by the blast. 2 minutes later, the fire reaches the combat-ready warheads, causing the explosion.
It's so weird to think about. Let's think about it since I watched Cost of Concordia video, where the electric box was heating up and it had to be restarted with a wrench so it doesn't catch fire. How weird would that be to die, to burn to death underwater? It's incredible.
Of around 7 of them. This massive explosion killed most of the remaining crew members and tore a hole in the boat's hull, exposing the first 4 compartments to the sea. Water races in at 90,000 litres per second. The Kursk sinks to the bottom of the sea. Unbelievably, there are some survivors in the rear 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th compartments. Although this consists of only 23 men, it can be assumed that a number of these were badly injured. With almost all of the crew dead, Captain Lieutenant Dmitry Kolesnikov takes charge and gathers the survivors in the 9th compartment. The 5th compartment, containing the 2 nuclear reactors, is specially reinforced and survives the blasts, allowing the reactors to automatically shut down and avoid meltdown
if
and
they explode,
contamination. The
that'll be
backup batteries
bad.
were stored in the first compartment
But they
and were
didn't.
destroyed in the
So that's
explosions, meaning the ninth compartment was the only one with power, as it had its
Welcome to my
own
channel while I say
limited
obvious
emergency
shit.
power supply. The ninth compartment also contained an escape hatch, although Kalashnikov and the survivors apparently never attempted to use it. It's unknown if it would have still been operational from the inside, and even if it was, its use would have been very risky. It would have been preferable to wait for a rescue ship to attach. Being part of such a large operation before the incident, the survivors must have thought rescue was not long away, although, as previously mentioned, it is a day before the sub is even located. An emergency buoy intended to deploy in event of disaster to aid in locating the submarine had been disabled many months beforehand due to frequent malfunctions. Conditions are unpleasant in the ninth compartment. The air purification system is down, meaning every breath consumes the oxygen in the room and replaces it with carbon dioxide. Water is also slowly seeping into the compartment, and the pressure is increasing. Kalashnikov writes a note. His luminous wristwatch provides the time, and he adds it to the note. It is nearly 2 hours after the explosions. It's 13:15. All personnel from Section 6, 7, and 8 have moved to Section 9. There are 23 people here. We feel bad, weakened by carbon dioxide. Pressure is increasing in the compartment. If we head for the surface, we won't survive the compression. We won't last more than a day. All personnel from Sections 6, 7, and 8 have moved to Section 9. We have made the decision because none of us can escape. 2 hours later, Kalashnikov writes a second note. This time, the handwriting is very difficult to read, suggesting that the emergency lights had run out of power. The crew were probably in complete darkness. It's dark here to write, but I'll try if I feel. It seems like there are no chances. 10 to 20%. Let's hope that at least someone will read this. Here's the list of personnel from the other sections who are now in the ninth and will attempt to get out. Regards to everybody. No need to despair. Kalashnikov. This note proves the remaining crew survived for at least 4 hours, but how soon their deaths came after it was written is a mystery. Some think they could have survived for up to a week. The only thing that's clear is how they died. Kalashnikov and 2 other sailors attempt to recharge the oxygen generation system with potassium superoxide chemical cartridges when they accidentally drop one of the cartridges into the oily seawater, slowly filling the compartment. This triggers a chemical explosion and a flash fire, killing most of the survivors. Some manage to avoid the fire by submerging under the water. Burn marks on the walls reveal that by this stage, the water was waist high. However, the fire consumes all the remaining oxygen, and these survivors suffocate. The wreck is eventually recovered, with the exception of the bow, as it is considered too risky due to the possibility of it containing undetonated torpedoes, and it is instead destroyed. The incident is a PR disaster for the Russian government, highlighting the decline of their military and the ineptitude of communications between officials. Families of the lost crew are outraged at the refusal of foreign help, the initial false reports, and the continued lack of information from the government. Many had only...
Surprising to hear that people outraged the government. Because judging by what government says, everybody's loving them.
...of events from rumors circulating the naval base and media reports. On the 22nd of August, Vladimir Putin visits the naval base to meet with the several hundred residents and family members of the Kursk's crew. The meeting lasts hours and is incredibly hostile. The grieving families cannot contain their outrage, and the meeting is marked with numerous outbursts. One mother is forcibly sedated while airing her grievances, losing the ability to speak, and is carried out. A number of memorials are erected, most notably...
He fucking sedated her. Grieving mother who's son died, I'm assuming, on that thing, possibly because of what government did by refusing help and accepting help only later. Also lying.
One in Murmansk that is made from the recovered sail of the Kursk.
The thing says to like seamen, like naval officers, I guess. And I don't know the terms in English, but like to naval who work underwater, serve underwater. That's the first thing, and then who died in peaceful times.
It's a grim sight knowing that so many lost their lives on the sub, and the ones that went in the explosions were lucky. The rest spent their last moments in total darkness, freezing in seawater in a metal coffin, waiting for an ever-shrinking chance of rescue. And that is eerily represented by the memorial. It's cold, black and rigid. It's bleak, far more fitting than any proud statue. The memorial is, as the story is, haunting.
I wouldn't agree with that, but the memorial just made to look like part of the submarine. The memorials are pointless anyway, in my opinion, but still. I have nothing else to say. This is just horrible garbage. And that's more proof to Russian government being inept. Is that the word? Being unable to serve the people, to protect the people they're supposed to protect. You know? To protect the people who are, because they're in military, protecting the government to begin with. Fuck this. Thank you, anybody who watched this, and thank you, Tom Vinton, for recommending this. But also, no, I'm not saying. I would say also fuck you. No. Thank you. I have to stream in like 10 minutes. And now I'm very sad. I'll get over it. Okay. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye. Have a great life, because one of us has to.